Hi, welcome to my channel and to the Full Monty Disassembly Show. Today's guest is the Chiappa M1-22. Today's show is a little bit unusual, and that is because the disassembly of the FCG and the bolt is ahead of the main disassembly. And the reason why is because these two have issues, and I need to resolve them first before I get to the main disassembly. And you're wondering probably, why am I doing this? First is because this rifle is used and I got it at a very attractive price. And I knew there was problems with the FCG and the bolt. And I thought it was also a good idea, and it's about time I start to show you how to fix some of the problems that you may have. So I thought to incorporate that into my disassembly, and that would be a good idea. So let's talk about what is actually wrong with this FCG. The first issue was the mag catch. As you can see, there's no spring to it, and when you slide your mag in, you have to literally push it back to lock. Okay, so that you can tell that there is a spring, there's a hole in here, there's a spring missing. So we need to resolve that. And the second issue is the selector. I have a hard time switching that from safe to fire. Okay, so that's another issue I need to resolve. And as far as the bolt concerned, there was an extracting issue, and automatically I can tell what the problem was. This extractor is on the out position and it stays out, and it shouldn't be like that. It should be spring loaded and it should be going back in. So that's probably a missing spring, or the spring is broken. So those are the two things I need to resolve. I'm not going to show you how to disassemble out of the rifle because that will come in the main. So I'm just going to go right into showing you how to disassemble the FCG first, and then resolve the problem, and then disassemble the bolt, and then show you how to resolve the problem. I'll set this up and I'll be back. I am back. Now after you punch out this roll pin that's in the front of the housing, trigger housing. By the way, this trigger housing is made out of plastic, and you slide this housing backwards and it slides right out like this. Okay. Now first thing you do is remove the hammer spring, and that's very simple. Just grab it like this and pull it back like that. These are struts and your spring. And then you have this hammer. Now there's the hammer pin, and it's extra long, longer than the width. So you just slide it, doesn't matter which way you slide it, and pull it out like that. Then the hammer comes out. Okay, the next thing you remove is the spring that's behind the sear. Actually, it's it's holding it gives the trigger tension. So it's a spring, and it's an odd looking spring. And the way to remove that, actually what you could do is just push out the pin, and that would come out. What I normally like to use is a punch, sharp punch, and I just push out the pin, and it stays there till I slowly remove it. And then I can have a better control if there's any spring that may jump out. Okay, so that's what it is right here. Now in this particular case, you have to remove this other spring, and the way I do it is I have a little nail here that has a hook. Okay, this spring over here, right behind the trigger, I have to pull that up, and I got this little hook, and I pull up this, and I pull up the spring. Okay, actually here comes the sear. I'll show you how the sear and the trigger and everything is done. Okay. Okay. Be careful with this small spring right here. Okay. This small spring goes into the trigger like this. Actually, I will show you when I put it back together. There's a trigger, there's a spring, there's a sear, and here is the trigger spring. Okay, I'll show you how to put it back together. Okay, so that's basically, that's it. Normally this is where you would just go as far as your cleaning would go, but now I'm going to show you how to remove the mag catch and the selector. Okay, the first thing you have to do is push out the selector from the left to the right. Okay, and you just basically push it out like this. Just turn it down like that, straight down, and then wiggle it to the right. Use a punch if you have to, and there it is. It's almost coming up. Okay. And this is what the selector looks like. Okay, I can already tell what the problem is, and through where the selector came out, I can see a spring that's all gibbled up, and I don't see any ball bearing. There should be a ball bearing in there. Okay, now with the same hook that I pulled out this spring, I'm going to have to pull that selector spring out like that. I hooked it up, and I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to pull it through that hole on top. I don't know if you can see it, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull it out, and it's coming out now. Be careful not to pull it too hard. Okay, at this point, there should be no pressure against the mag catch, and that should slide out easily. Now turn this upside down, basically this direction, and there's a plunger that's holding the mag catch in. It will slide down, and then you should be able to, it's still, I guess it's still in the way. It's not coming up. So now I got to pull that spring out through this hole a little bit more. There's a hole at the bottom here. I can see there's a plunger. Okay, that's stopping. I wonder if I could push that plunger down. It's not easy, so I gotta pull the spring out through that hole. It's partly out. Oh, there it is. I finally hooked it and got out the spring. Once you remove that spring, the plunger should fall out through that hole where the selector was. And this is what the plunger looks like. This is what retains the mag catch. And here the mag catch would slide out. Okay, now I showed you, now this is what you don't actually see. There's a cutout there, and this is where the plunger sits, like that. And it stops it from coming out. Uh-oh. Now I dropped the plunger somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay, so that's where the plunger actually sits, and it holds the mag catch in place, and so it doesn't slide out. And of course, the plunger is pressed. Okay, so this is basically what it looks like. You have the mag catch, and then you have the plunger, then you have the spring. Now there's supposed to be a ball bearing after the spring, and then comes your selector. The ball bearing is missing. And let me look at this spring. I can see where the problem was. The ball bearing has fallen out somehow, and part of the spring is kind of a gibbled and damaged. Okay, so we need to replace that spring, and also we need to find a mag catch spring, and this is the hole where the mag catch spring goes in. All right. Okay, so let's. I have ordered the mag catch spring from AliExpress. Now the thickness of the wire is 0.5 millimeter, and the thickness of the spring itself, the width, is 3 millimeter, and the length is 20 millimeter long. Okay, I've ordered that, and that will go into this hole like that. Okay, so I've ordered that. Also, I ordered some small ball bearings, and I need a 4 millimeter ball bearing that was missing. And this is what a 4 millimeter ball bearing looks like. And it goes in where this long one is. Okay, so I didn't have a spring that I didn't order the spring, and what I did is I so happened to have a pen, and I removed to see what size spring this is, and as it turned out, it's the same 4 millimeter spring. It's almost the same dimension. So I'm going to be end up using this for my pen and getting rid of this. Okay, so now I've disassembled it, and I'm going to put it back together. Get that, get the sear, get this sear spring. So if you look at the trigger, there is a hole inside here. Okay, that's where the spring goes into, like that. That's a little tricky. There it is. Okay, now this is where the sear, there's a little concave spot on this side and none on the other side, the long side. So this goes in like this. Okay. See? Now insert that into the housing. Now what I normally do is use a punch and put it through the whole assembly. Like that. Make sure that's it. Make sure the spring is seated properly. It is. I can see the sears going up and down. Now, get the smaller pin. Okay, this is for the hammer, and the smaller one is this one, silver. Not the cotter, not the roll pin. Now, when you slide it across, at the same time you're pushing the punch out. Okay, like this. Okay. And it should be even with the receiver on both sides. Okay. Now you have to insert this trigger spring. And this is the bottom. This part catches onto the trigger. Okay, so this is the bottom, that's the top. So you would insert it this direction. Okay, like that. And you just basically push it in with a screwdriver. Okay, like this. Like that. Yeah. That's it. Okay, when you fire, the lever is pointing towards the back, and there's a claw in the front of the sear, and there's a gap in the selector shaft, which allows it to go lower, and then it fires. Okay, and the spring, the back spring over here, is pushing the trigger down. Okay, so that's done. Next, you put in the hammer. Point the hammer up. Again, use the punch and put it across. Okay, I have to put her down, otherwise, like that. Okay, same thing. Take the longer pin, silver pin. Now slide it across at the same time. You're pulling out the punch. This pin is extra long. It sticks out about 1/8 on each side. Next, take the hammer spring, hammer strut. There is a hole in the back. That's where it goes into. Squeeze it in, and then this part, the round part, goes behind the hammer. There's a cutout for it. That's it. I am back. It took me over 2 hours to fix this. And I spent most of the time looking for springs and plungers that just jump off. I was looking for the best way to install this, and it's finally done. So what I'm going to do now is disassemble this and then show you how I did it. Okay. To disassemble this, make sure the selector is facing forward. Okay. And all you have to do is push this side out. It's that simple. And that's also a problem, and that's probably how some people lose their ball bearing. So you pull this out. Like that. Make sure you don't lose the ball bearing. Okay. Okay. Now once you release the tension, now you can pull the mag catch towards the right and make sure you don't lose that spring. It's just jumped out on me. Luckily, I see it right there. That's the spring. Okay. And then you can, there's another trigger, actually not a trigger, selector spring. You shake it forward and it comes out with the plunger. Okay? So that's basically how you remove the selector spring. Now I'm going to show you how the best way to put it in. Best way to put it in is to have this selector all the way to the back, like this. And don't push it all the way across to the left. Just have a little bit, like maybe 1/16 of an inch sticking out. Okay, more on the right side. Next, take the ball bearing. Actually, the best way to do this is to put it on a vise. Okay, I'm going to push all these forward, and I need those extra hands soon. So put this like this. Now clamp it very gently. Okay, once you have the selector facing the back, now you can put in the ball bearing. Now this is a 4mm ball bearing into the hole right here. Okay, it's in. Next, follow up with the spring. Okay. Now, this is the original spring that's all broken up. You could salvage this, you know, it doesn't look too bad, but, or you could use this spring from the pen. But if you're going to use either of these, you should add a little bit of oil. And that's what I noticed, that it was rubbing against the walls. So if you're going to use a little bit of that, you should add a little bit of oil. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of oil, not too much, just let it drop down there. But instead of using the pen spring, and these are 4mm springs, I decided to use the ones I got from AliExpress. It's the 3mm spring and 20mm long, and the thickness of the wire is 0.5. I decided to use, it's the same spring that I use for the mag catch. The only difference is I had to cut out about a couple of coils out. You see how short this is? So I use that instead. I find it works better. So I took that, make sure it's greased up a little bit. Now I'm putting it in. And so now this would be the height. I want you to see the height of the spring. Okay, right there. Now I'm going to put it in the vise, gently clamp it. Now I'm going to put the plunger. Now this is the part where it's going to put a lot of pressure. Now this is a little tricky, so I'm going to have to use two hands, and I'll need a precision screwdriver, flathead. Okay, I need that. to go into this hole right here. Also need a regular screw driver. Okay, and also need maybe also need a punch. It looks like I don't know, it looks like an eighth. Okay. Okay, so now don't over tighten this vise because the trigger housing is made out of plastic. Now, okay, I also need one of these. Okay, and what I'm going to use this for is to push the spring down. Okay, I'm pushing the spring down. Let me move this a little bit forward. I'm going to push the spring down. I'm going to insert it into the spring hole. And then I'm going to push it down like this. And now I'm going to use the precision screwdriver, a slotted one, and I'll insert it through this hole. And then hold the spring down like this. See? Now I'm holding the spring down. Now I'm going to take the plunger. Now where is the plunger? Right here. I'm going to insert the plunger in that hole. Okay. See, this is where the aggravation comes from. Now I need to make sure it falls into that hole like that. Okay, now it's standing in the hole. Now I need to use the flat end of the screwdriver and I need to press this down. Oh. It wants to jump out. It's not going straight. So I have to do this all over again. See the plunger? Just jumped up, hit the lamp, and fell on my sleeve. Thank goodness. Okay, let's start that all over again. This is the aggravating part. I'm going to use this, push it down. I'm going to use this to hold the spring down. Now I'm going to put this plunger okay, now I'm using the flat end of the screwdriver and I'm pushing the plunger all the way down. Next, I use the 20mm long 3 spring and insert into the hole on the right side. Now I take the mag catch, pointing the M downwards and sliding it in this hole. And at the same time, make sure you're moving the screwdriver out. And here it is. I want to show you what it looks like. Now before I push it all the way in, I need to make sure that the mag catch spring, and here it is, it seemed to be not centered properly. So I need to push this in properly. It seems like it wants to come out of this gap, and that's it. And I keep pushing this till you hear a snap. Okay, something is wrong. It's not, something is wrong. It's supposed to be springy, and it's not springy. I think I can see the spring for the mag catch is bent, and it should have gone straight in, but it didn't. And now I'm in big trouble. Now I have to disassemble this all over again and make sure the mag catch spring is straight. Right now I can see it's bent in, and it's not allowing the oh, okay, just hang on, maybe I can just pull this down. Nope, it looks like I have to do this all over again. Last time I encountered problem with the mag catch, and I couldn't work it properly, and the reason why is that I end up bending the spring. So what I'm going to do this time, the spring is too long, I'm just going to cut off a couple of coils out of the spring. So it's not so long. I think that's where the problem was. So it was bending. So that's what I'm going to do. I cut a couple of coils off. Okay, let's start this all over again. First, selector pointing backwards. Insert the ball bearing 4mm into the hole. I'm going to use the same mag catch spring, except I also clipped that too. I took off a couple of coils also. Insert that in. Now I'll put on the vise. Use this, push it down. Use the flathead to hold down the spring. Now put in plunger. Using a different screwdriver now. Push it all the way in, and then make sure it's straight, and then push the plunger down at the same time, removing this, and there it is. Now take the spring that I clipped a couple of coils, and the clip part should go into the receiver, and take the mag catch. Make sure the M is facing downwards. Okay. Now before I slide it all the way in, I want to make sure the mag spring is straight and is yes, and it's working fine. And you hear the clip, it means that plunger is now locking in the mag catch from coming out. Okay, let's turn the selector. Selector is good. Let's turn it to fire, and it does work. Great, that is done. Phew. Oh, next, the bolt. And now for the bolt. To remove the extractor, there's a cross pin right here, and you would punch from the right side to the left side. Okay, so basically this is where your punch would go, like that. Okay, now as far as the firing pin concerned, that is not removable, simply because you can tell the way it's done. On the other side, looks like the pin has been flattened, and somehow it's just not removable. So I wouldn't remove that. Okay, as far as the extractor concerned, put this in the vise, like that. and just gently tap. Seem to come out pretty easily. So you can see the pin coming out. Now I need a longer. If I could get a longer, I don't have a longer. I'm gonna have to use a nail. Oh, nope, nail's tooth. Oh, here it is. I'm gonna use a nail. There it is. And this is the extractor pin. Really tiny pin. Make sure I don't lose that. And here, I know there's a spring that's missing. And that's the extractor. And yes, there's no spring. And you can tell that the spring can easily slip out because there's no like a hole for it. But luckily I have a spring, and the previous seller provided the spring to me, and that's how tiny the spring is. Okay, so what you do is, okay, the best way to put back the extractor and the spring is to first put the pin in first, okay, then put in the spring. And where did the spring go? The spring was right here. Here's the spring. It's very tiny. Yeah. Then stand the spring up. Now this is where it's difficult to stand it up, but it's very small. Okay, here towards the back. Now put the extractor in. Oh, you see. Now the trick is to make sure the spring stands up. This is why this spring, this is really poorly designed. And now you can see why this rifle will probably have a lot of problems. Okay, now I keep the extractor lined up in the back like this. Then I know I can start tapping the pin in because I'm lined up in the back. I don't even have to look at if the holes are lined up, as long as the back is lined up. And now I can tap the pin in, and it does stay. Actually, I'm going to have to put it into the vise. Make sure you protect the jaws from biting into the bolt. Yes, it's going in now. Okay, that's how it's done. And I can even see the spring underneath the extractor. Now you just test it. Yes, it's working fine. All the repairs are done. Now let's see if it works. The first issue was the mag catch would not lock the mag in properly without manually pushing it in. Let's see if it works. It does. It locks in place. And let's see if it releases. It does. Let's do that again. It does lock in place, and it does release. Now, the second issue was the selector would not turn, and it is safe. it does. You can even hear the snap, and it does turn. The third issue was the bolt. It would not eject because the extractor was not working properly. Now let's load it up and let's see if it works. That around is loaded and it is on fire. Let's see if you hear that click. It does. Now let's see if it ejects or extract, and it does. Put a second round in there. It clicks. Third. It works. And even the BHO works. So, all the repairs are done. It all seemed to work. Thank you very much for joining me. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you.